Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a 60-year-old fishing reel that, well, it's a survivor. And when I work on these, I always have kind of mixed emotions about them in terms of whether you want to polish them up and repaint them and the like, or if you just want to accept the patina as it is and let that tell the story. And I almost always err on the side of let the patina tell the story. Of course, if there's salted corrosion or things like that, you certainly want to make sure that it doesn't progress anymore. But a lot of these nicks and the like, probably this was from being in a rod holder or something, I just kind of leave them. So I'll clean the dirt off of it, but I'm not going to repaint or restore in that regard. Well, what is it? The badge is missing, right? Well, this Royal Maroon should be a hint of what it is, right? And then the other hint here is that it's got a model code EG that's associated with Shakespeare's Made in the USA model code EG. So the EG model code, when you go to Shakespeare's Magic Decoder, it's 1964. That makes it a 60-year-old fishing reel. This one needs some service. It is working. It's tight. There is a override for your anti-reverse. You have it here, you have it override there. There is a star adjuster on it. So this is not an inexpensive reel. So with a little bit more research, what I found was that this is actually the Shakespeare Wonderflyte, and it's a model code 1765, or a model number. It had a badge on here at one point. The badge has fallen off. That's almost like a lot of the Penn spin fishers that you find, the greenies and the like, that had a decal or had a metal insert on there that just has gone the way of, well, some lures that get snagged on some tree bottoms and the like. All right, well, we're going to take this reel apart. We're going to service it. We'll show you how it's made. Love the reel. It's a heavy reel. It's all metal. And, well, we'll just get this one going again. This is one of the reels that I found in that box of flea market finds, a bunch of old stuff that you wondered if you could give it a second chance. And I'm convinced with these reels that I can give it a second chance, and well, that's what we're going to do today. If you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know what I'm posting and when I'm posting. And boy, I post on all kinds of fishing reels. Everything from, well, the older closed face to the newer and most modern of spin fishing reels or bait casting reels or ocean trolling reels, whatever. You're looking over my shoulder in my shop at how to service and repair, and those are lessons that I hope to pass along to you so that you can do it yourself. The reel itself is in the Royal Maroon series. It's a beauty. It's all metal cased, and well, let's get started. Before we get started, well, you want to start with a couple of things to think through. If you don't know what the reel is like, one of the things to go do is go put it out on the internet. This one came from a site called realschematic.com. It shows you a diagram of how this reel sets up. And, well, when you take it apart, it's an exploded view, so you know what to expect. And if anything goes wrong, you have a roadmap back to, well, how to put it back together again. I also encourage you to take pictures. You should also have a strategy that deals with parts management once you take them off. My parts management is a tray that I use. It's a fast food container. And that tray, well, I just organize by sub-assemblies. All right, let's get started. We're going to take the cap off first. That's big enough that I don't need to worry too much about where to put that one. Underneath that we have the dome or the bell. And, well, that's what's going to collect the line. It's going to collect it right here. One of the interesting things with this reel is it's not a level line reel. This is not going to go up and down. It's simply going to gather the line on the spool underneath. And you can see that it's spinning. It's not spinning as easily as I would like it to, but it is spinning, and that's good. And you can see this is a metal case here. This is not a plastic case. My guess is in 1964 this was not an inexpensive reel at all. And The price paid, well, it was probably comparable to what you would pay for spinning wheels and the like. I'm going to start with a couple of tools. I have the screwdriver on the one side and I have the gear side on the other. The gear side, you're going to need a wrench, or in this case a nut driver, and these are in the American threading system, not the metric. It's the SAE, and this one is a 5/16 wrench. When I take them off, well, I told you we're not going to repaint or do anything crazy with this reel, but I am going to clean it. Love the plastic handle on this one. It's showing its age. It's got a nice patina on it. I use a kitchen scrubby, just a corner section of one, and a little bit of rod and wheel cleaner to clean that up. And again, I'm not interested in making this thing look like it just came off the shelf. I like when the nicks and the scratches and the dings and all of that kind of tell their own stories. But if you've got stuff on there that doesn't belong on there, fish scales or dust, dirt, whatever, no harm, no foul taking that off. And I know the camera and that polish makes this look clean and shiny. Well, to the extent that you can make it a little bit prettier, that's fine too. All right, and the other thing I'm going to do is just going to back the drag off at this point. Now I'm not sure what's underneath here yet, so I'm going to leave this attached until I open up the other side. We can also take off the top section here. Use a screwdriver with a wide blade that can get through the two slots, or use the nut driver or a wrench that can grab the outer piece. Again, take the pictures. Notice that there is a little compression washer under here, or a tension washer, that goes between the nut that you just removed and the top of the housing. We have the housing. Then we have the little guard here that's holding this spool onto the post. It simply can usually just be lifted up and out like that. I'm going to stop the video at some point and remove that line. That line is no longer good. I don't know when the last time this reel went fishing, but you know, a lot of times these reels bog down because there's an issue with storage. The greases evaporate and that's what causes it to perform poorly. That's my guess as to what's happening here. I think the reel was put away working okay. You also want to notice that there is a rubber ring inside this, or a plastic ring inside of this. Go ahead and clean the inner piece and put your ring back. If you didn't notice, there's a flat side and an indented side. The indented side was facing down when it came off. So when you remove it, you may actually find the inner ring sitting over the spool like that, and that's okay. Either one works, just know that that's where it belongs. All right, those are big pieces. They don't need to go. I mentioned again, at some point we will take the line off of that. We'll stop the video for a minute and we'll do that. Okay, there's 3 screws that are on this side of the reel I want to remove, and I'm going to use a micro screwdriver to do that. The blade of a traditional screwdriver will not fit there. This came as part of a micro screwdriver set that I've purchased. It's a Milwaukee set. You can also buy the $2.99 special through Harbor Freight, which is just as good. I like the length on this handle, but other than that, both of them are going to work equally well. Okay, this one is a little tight. Now, when you're working on a reel that's this age, it doesn't hurt to put a little bit of penetrating oil on there. Let it seep for just a minute or two. You don't want to snap off a screw, and that penetrating oil will help to loosen it up as it gets in the threads. You can hear it kind of cracking out there, so don't be afraid to kind of do it again. I'm going to just pop that there. I'm going to go up to the top one, let that one seep into the threads, come back and do this one. And it's probably been 35 or 40 years since this reel's been serviced. We got the same thing here. So again, we'll come back up here, we'll do a little bit of penetrating oil on that one, and then I'll go below while that one is seeping in there. I always get a little bit nervous when I hear that crying out there. One of the things I'm doing with these screws as I remove them is I'm putting them into a corner of my tray, and I'm noticing whether they're all the same size or not. In this case, all three of the screws are the same size, so I don't have to worry, but if you found that one screw was longer or shorter than the other, that's where you want to pay attention, and that's where you want to make sure that you put that screw back. Those three screws are off. We can remove the side plate now. When you remove the side plate, the wing is going to come off as well, the trigger. This is where you want to clean, and the penetrating oil has actually helped me get a jump start here on cleaning, because penetrating oil is also a solvent, helps to dissolve old greases and the like. And well, I can do the same on this side. That button wasn't moving very well. I can see why. There's a lot of dirt on both the button and on the post that it was riding on. You can see the dirt here. So we do just the same thing we did before. Let the penetrating oil do its work on the one side while you work the other. And this is the beauty of these reels. If you can notice the fit and finish on the inside of that plate, that's what it looked like when it came new from the factory. But the fact that it's finished that way, plated on this side, plated on the stem here, is just an example of quality. And while in the 1960s, Shakespeare was still an independent company, and it was certainly known for the quality of reels that it produced. It's been around since the early 1900s. It was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, is where they were making most of their product. And well, today it's part of the bigger pure fishing enterprise, and most of the stuff is made offshore. And well, I guess it's Shakespeare in name only. We've sort of had that conversation about Mitchell's, which is also owned by Pure Fishing, and Abu, which is owned by Pure Fishing. And well, they've consolidated a lot of brands under that Pure Fishing brand. Penn is in there. Penn is the most dominant, I guess, of their brands. But when these were competitors going against each other, there was a lot of innovation, and well, it just made for a nice story to tell. Okay, I'm leaving this patina on. I'm not going to try and scrub this off. This tells you a story. This is UV damage on the plastic. You can see the inner part that never was exposed to that, and the exterior part that was. All right, that's cleaned up. I wanted to make sure that it was cleaned inside here, which is where it's going to ride on that post of that plate. All right, put that into my parts tray. And this design didn't change much from Shakespeare for a long time. This has got a Carter pin in here. Might be hard to see, but it's a Carter pin, a little rounded cup, almost like a U, a big spring, well, and a lot of dirt and grease and grime inside here. That's why it's not running the way it should, I guess. I'm just seeing chunks and chunks of the dried grease in the teeth here. So let's continue by doing this now. Best way to do this is remove the tension on the spring. So you want to pull up, just like that. Let go of that tension. You're going to need a little pick or something. And be careful with this, because if you lose these pieces and parts, well, you're kind of out of luck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cup float. I'm going to take a pliers to pull that pin out. And that's the pin that we were working with right there. I don't know, hopefully it's in focus. That's the pin that goes underneath. This is a good place to take the picture. We had the pin. There is a slot here, right there, that pin is going to go in. And then we have the U-shaped clip. That's the U-shaped clip right there. That's next. And the clip with the U faces down. One of the problems with my black storage container there for the parts is that anything that's black is hard to see. All right, there's your spring. And now we should be able to pull up and out on the axle shaft. There's another washer on the top of the axle shaft. The axle shaft comes up. The gear should come down and off. Take a picture so that you know where you are with this. And then we can put those pieces into my parts tray. We'll be cleaning those in just a moment. This is part of the casting. You don't need to remove that. I think there is. I'm not even sure. It may screw in or out. Not important. Don't touch it. Okay, now we can take off the rest of the drag system. We have the star adjuster. We have a metal washer that goes beneath that. We have a tube. You can see how the greases and everything is dried on that ferrule or tube. And then I like to make sure that the anti-reverse is in the off position here, and then we can remove the main gear assembly. And you do not need to remove that anti-reverse dog, but there's the look on the anti-reverse dog. This has a spring on it. I'll explain the spring, but I'm not going to remove it. There's a 90-degree tag on the spring. It goes here. There's a wrap around the bottom of this post and a long arm that comes out and rests on the side of the case right here. That's your piece. All right, I'm going to do what we've been doing all along. I'm going to take a little bit of penetrating oil here to soften up the grease that's stuck around that where the pinion gear is going to ride. We're going to remember we have this collar, the washer, and the star adjuster. Now while I have that star adjuster off, I want to go back to that little scrubby pad there. Clean up both sides of that. Now it really doesn't matter which way this star adjuster goes on because the finish is the same on both, but notice there's a scarring here on this side from riding up against the washer on the inside of the case. So when you go to reinstall, make sure that's the inside of your star adjuster. This is our drag system now. We push your main gear through. You have your click ratchet for your anti-reverse. You have a drag washer here. Then you have the main gear. Then you have the back end and a drag washer here. Now I'm just going to see if we can move this. Sometimes you need to make a decision that says it's just not worth changing it up too much or trying to get it off because it freezes to the metal and you're going to have a hard time finding a replacement. And I think that's what we have here. So I'm using a razor knife here to try and loosen through. A lot of times when the old grease is dry, I got it. All right. When the old grease is dry, they kind of cement this drag washer to the back end of the plate, and you can see it here. It's got a bunch of old drag washer on there, and when it has that on there, that drag washer isn't going to slide or slip. You're going to have a minimum performance on the back side of the drag. And we have two drags here. It's a dual drag. So one of them would probably give you a little bit more, but I noticed when I was testing this reel that, well, no drag washer performance, or at least sub performance. But then again, the reel wasn't spinning very well, so it's kind of hard to tell that. And I'm using a microfile to kind of shave that off. A little bit of penetrating oil, just like we did before. And now I'm going to grab a piece of 4/0 steel wool. Try and buff that out now. You need a smooth deck here if you want that washer to turn, and you don't want to chew that washer up. Seems like we're doing pretty good. While we're doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you're working on one and it's stuck and you don't know why it's stuck, well, whatever, just leave the questions in the comment section here. It doesn't need to be about this reel. I will try to help you. Okay, that's nice and smooth now. There's some tarnish on there, but you're not going to fix tarnish. We did manage to keep this one together. It's hard to figure out what that is. It feels like it's rather a hard piece, so it may or may not benefit from some grease. So I'm going to grease it up here. Then I'm going to wipe off the excess. The grease is to keep it flexible. And in this case, it probably will enable it to slide a little bit like you're seeing here on that post. All right, I'm going to do the same with this one. It's kind of hard to see. Some of these were like an asbestos thing back in the 1960s. They didn't worry too much about asbestos. But sometimes these were cork, sometimes they were leather, sometimes they were like an asbestos kind of a feature, whatever. And again, it would matter more if the thing is a flexible type of a washer, say felt. It matters much more if you put the greases on it. You can see here how that one has sat on this reel. So both of these really weren't functioning very well. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll do a little bit of cleaning. So if it seems laborious, if it seems like why are we doing all of this, it's always because the art of reel repair involves patience and just kind of knowing what you need to do, kind of setting out to doing it. There's no prizes for fast. And if it's a reel that you're going to use, and I know at a minimum I'm going to put some line back on this reel, some good line, take it down to the local pond, see how it does after 60 years. I'm kind of curious myself. This is a very heavy duty reel. You can use this reel for catfish and never be bothered that you're not going to be able to land that one. All right, if we remember, got one more thing to do here. This is an aluminum gear. This is why, I guess, you can tell how it was stored. It was stored with this facing down because that's where all the grease is puddled. And, well, we want to make sure that we clear the tracks of that old grease. So use a hard brush, pull through. So this reel came to me. I found this on Facebook Marketplace with a bunch of reels. I think there were 30 in total. I average under $5 a reel for the purchases. When I was looking at them, I said, well, this looks like a good subject for a video. Not really thinking I would use it too much, but you know what? You never know. All right, this was the inside. We're going to take some fishing reel grease now. I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. I'm going to re-grease the teeth on the main gear. Now don't put a lot of grease on there, kind of cover the teeth, but don't put a lot on there because it's just going to fall to the inside and be wasted. Take the core, bring that back in. Then we know that the washer went on next. If we had any doubts, we go back and check the pictures. Then we know this is the side that goes against that washer because, well, there's the imprint of the washer. But again, pictures would tell you what the orientation is of those teeth. And now we have a main gear that's got a functional drag on it. Let's go back here. This has been sitting a while. And one of the nice things about it sitting a while is, well, it's softened all of that old grease up. This is the ideal time to do any cosmetic cleaning that you're going to do on the external part of this case, because you don't have anything in the way. All I got to do is find my little scrubby pad. It's still got some rod and reel cleaner on it. I'm just going to wipe off the years of dust that it's been sitting in, whether that dust and dirt have accumulated because it was sitting at a flea market for sale, whether it's been because it was in a bucket of reels in somebody's shed, or, well, maybe it was just never cleaned when it was put away. I don't know. But take the time here to go ahead and clean it up. Now, again, you're not going to restore the finish. That's not the purpose of this. It's not my purpose. I don't go back and repaint and do things like this. I prefer, again, the kind of the take on it that says this is the way that the reel has survived for 60 years. I'm going to let it tell its own story there. But if you want to go ahead and do that, hey, it's your reel. You can do what you like with it, and what are you losing? In this case, $5? I don't know. I'm not protecting this from its collectability, if you will. All right, this comes in on this side. The main gear, hold that because it's still got the two sides to it. Let's bring the main gear in and through. Bring all of this down. Go ahead and get that little round washer that went next. And then look for your star adjuster. Remember the side that's got the scar that's been bumping up against that washer for decades. Well, put it on that side. And now we will have a drag washer that's going to, well, be variable as opposed to either all on or all off, which is what was happening here. Okay, we have our next setup here, which is the setup for the gears. There is a washer that goes underneath. I'm just going to check that. I want to make sure, so I'm going back to that schematic. Funny, the schematic doesn't show it. Okay, well, let's make sure that it's going to sit on here. It's going to go below this. So this is your pinion gear. And again, we want to make sure we clean this up. Do the same thing here. If you see that there's clogged teeth, either use your hard brush or there's not a lot of teeth in this one, you can actually use a pick and just bring it down the center valleys of each one of these. Whatever you do, make sure you get the old grease out of there, otherwise it will be a deterrent to its performance. And there's a lot of old grease in here. So I guess where I'm scraping right now is probably where this was riding and where it was stored, because it all seems to be on the one side here. Okay, we're in good condition here. We want to take our main shaft then, bring that in to the top. And what we failed to do here is just clean that up a little bit. And my take is that this will go on first, and then we'll have this above the spring, and unfortunately, again, it doesn't show that on my schematic. Well, one of the things I know it shows on my pictures, the videos I'm taking. So if we have an issue there, what we will do is we'll go back to the video and we'll reset it as needs be. Okay, bring the shaft in through the top. Let's reset the pinion gear here. Bring that down. I'm going to put the washer on next. That should hold the spring and stop the spring from going into the pinion gear. That makes sense. And now I'm going to take the glove off here because, well, I just need my fingernails in that, which I can't reach with the glove. We're going to install the U-clip, and we're going to install the pin that holds that in. Put the pin on here so we can see it. Okay, compress your spring, hold the top shaft down, compress your spring. Like that, hold that in. Your U-clip goes in next. Make sure you clear that little gap where that quarter pin has got to go. Now I want to grab that pin. not necessarily easy to do. And with that pin in the slot, bring it up, make sure that it nests in that U cavity. And I'm going to shut the camera off at this point. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to, one, check my photos, make sure it's right, and two, get rid of this old line so that we can reline it with new line before we take it fishing. I'll be right back. Okay, I was going to go back and check the pictures, and well, I just thought I'd check one more time on the schematic. I guess my eyes weren't working very well, but they do show the washer right here on this part being P2K, and well, that's telling me that I have it in the right place. So well, we can continue. I did take the line off the spool. So next up then is the side plate, and on our side plate we have the lever arm. Now this is your top of your side plate here. The lever arm goes like that. We bring that in and align the holes for the screws. Go to your parts tray. And let's go ahead and put those screws back in. You need your micro driver for this. Turns out one of these screws has been replaced. I imagine what happened here was it got lost, maybe during a service. And that's why it's important to make sure that you have a parts strategy in place before you start taking parts out. It could be that, well, it was on a boat and it vibrated out, but you never know. So the best practice is to always figure out what you're going to do with the parts before you start taking those parts off. All right, that's the lower end of the reel. We have our handle that goes back next. I'm going to put the handle on. On top of the handle was that little friction washer. And once that's on, grab your nut cap. And that was a tight fit on that one. I just took a quick glance at my schematic. It doesn't show that washer there. So it's possible that this nut cap was slipping a little bit. Not sure. And somebody perhaps put that on as an insurance. All right, put your handle nut on. Tighten that down. And now we can bring the spool that's been emptied over. You're looking for these two holes here. That's where you're going to mount this spool to. Make sure they're in there, and then make sure that your retention clip is in the groove. Once you clip that in for the retention, take that cap and put that over the top. Bring your dome in. Make sure that seats on there. Okay, we can test to make sure that it's holding up. It is. Click it, bring it down. Let's put our top cap on. You know what? It cleaned up pretty nice. There we go. One more time just for fun. Oh, what a difference it is in terms of being able to crank this. Of course, you put that on there. Make sure that you have the anti-reverse in place as well. Okay, even though it's not marked, again, this is the Shakespeare Wonderflyte, and boy, it's a nice one. 60 years later, still ready to go catch fish. I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. I truly appreciate your efforts day in and day out. Well, there's another example of why you want to give reels a second chance and how you can do that. Again, I recommend that you subscribe to the channel and that you well, hit that notification button if you do, That way you'll be able to see this type of reel and many, many more, and learn how to service and repair them. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.